name is Joseph Ransom, and I'm blind. Well, I'm not really blind, I just can't see. There's a big difference between the two if you'll think about it. Like most people, I grew up thinking that all blind people live in a world of total darkness. Came to understand that this is not so. While our vision may be gone, many visually impaired people actually perceive far more of our environment than the sighted. Many people have the ability to literally see with their eyes, but do not always have the knack of perceiving with their minds. The distinction between those two forms the backdrop for this story. The story you will see tonight is a true story. My story. I lost my sight at the age of 22, but this is not so much the story of how I learned to cope with my blindness, as it is the story of how I learned to dream, of how I learned to rely more completely on God, of how His grace has always been sufficient for me. For more than 20 years, He has allowed me to see without my eyes, but most people never have the privilege of seeing with their eyes. Part of the potential mystery of the story is already gone. I do go blind. There's no suspense there. The journey there, and the journey since, is as exciting to me now as when it all happened. Like I said, this is the story of how I learned to dream in the face of adversity. Adversity that began very early in my life. While pregnant with me, my mother tried unsuccessfully to kill herself. She tried again when I was in the first grade and finally succeeded. My father and I never got along very well. I was too much of an inconvenience for him, I guess. Finally, at the end of my 6th grade year, I left home and ended up living on the streets. During that time, I got involved in drugs and other things. After getting kicked out of school in my senior year, I overdosed on my birthday and woke up in a hospital fighting for my life. Shortly after that, I gave my life to the Lord. I went back home, but was immediately kicked out. Because I had no Bible knowledge and no one to disciple me, I soon went back to my old ways. In spite of my salvation experience, nothing seemed to have changed in my life. I did all of the same things as before, only now I felt guilty about them. I found a church that helped me get back on track. I recommitted my life to Jesus and determined to not go back to my old ways. I even finished high school. I moved around from Montana to Washington to California. While in California, I was involved in ministry work. Shortly after that, I returned to my hometown of Ronan, Montana, in an attempt to make peace with my father. I found it ironic that I had originally left home because my father was chasing me in an attempt to get my Social Security money. Now, several years later, I was chasing him. I was not surprised to find he had no interest in making peace. Now that is where my story begins. In spite of the problems with my father, I was very content with my life. I was involved in a small church in the mountains of Montana. I had a good job working as a dietitian at the local hospital. I had no right to ask for more in life. Still, I had one lifelong dream, college. And since I had become a Christian, that dream had enlarged to Bible college. Still, it was only a dream I hadn't even dared to speak aloud. So my life was about to take a drastic, do I dare say, divinely orchestrated turn.
Oh, good. I'm glad you're here. I've got some great news.
Oh, hi, Ron. Please, come in. Have a seat.
Sit down. You're going to love this.
Oh, I'm fine, too. Thanks for asking.
Will you cut it out? I'm serious.
Seriously delirious, whatever it is, can't replace common courtesy and manners.
Oh, all right. Good evening, Mr. Ransom. I am pleased to be afforded this opportunity to speak with you. Might I inquire as to your well-being?
Sit down, you clown. What's going on?
You're going to be so surprised. I mean, my parents and I have been praying for this.
What already?
Well, you know how you've been dreaming about going to Bible college for some time now.
I never said anything about Bible college.
You didn't have to. I could see it in your eyes every time we talked. I know you didn't say anything about it because you were certain it could never happen.
It won't happen. There's no way.
Well, you better start packing your bags because we leave in the morning for Western Bible College in North Dakota.
I told you there's no way. I don't have the money for college, and I can't quit my job, and I just moved in this apartment last week.
None of that matters. I talked to your boss, and you're free to leave. As for everything else, God will take care of it. I know this is what he has planned for you, and if you don't go now, you never will.
If this is from God, he could have told me about it. I mean, he could have told me before he told you.
think he already did.
Well, I guess he has been laying it on my heart more and more lately.
See, what did I tell you? He's been preparing you even.
I guess so, but how do you know so much about this anyway?
Oh, a little bird told me.
I'm serious.
Oh, okay. A big, huge bird told me.
Come on.
I'm sorry. You know my dad graduated from Western about 1,000 years ago, and I'm going there now. I just sort of heard it through the grapevine that you've been accepted for next semester.
What do you mean, heard it through the grapevine? Did your family have anything to do with this?
What was I saying? Oh, anyway, Dad called to confirm your acceptance and verify your enrollment. We leave in the morning.
I told you I can't go. I just signed a lease on this apartment. I can't afford to break that contract.
You don't have to. God will take care of it.
He'll have to. I don't see any way.
Look, God will work it out. The first thing you need to do, though, is talk to your landlord.
I'd rather have my fingernails ripped out one by one. Attila the landlord scares me.
Well, he doesn't scare God.
If this is from God, he'll have to talk to him because no one else dares go near him.
Well, I'm sure he's talking to him right now. He's on his way up.
What?
He's on his way up. I saw him downstairs when I got here and told him you need to talk to him about 5 or 10 minutes.
Are you out of your mind?
Oh, showtime.
If this doesn't work, you're going to pay.
Don't tell me. God's the one who's taking care of it all.
Would you stop saying that? I'm coming. Oh, hi, Mr. Randolph. I didn't expect to see you up here today.
Yeah, your friend there said you need to talk to me. What is it?
Well, you see, well, it's like this.
What is it?
Well, I really like this apartment. I know I just moved in last week, but
Get to the point.
I have to give you my notice, sir. I have to move real soon.
When are you leaving?
Tomorrow morning?
See, realize this is out of the ordinary. I require a 30-day notice and inspection of the apartment.
I know, but I just...
In this case, I'll make an exception. I'll not only give you back the full month's rent, we'll skip the inspection. I trust you. Just stop by the office before you leave and pick up your money. Is there anything else?
No, sir. Thank you, sir. That's
Yeah,
very...
good night.
Oh, all right. Maybe God does want me to start college tomorrow.
Come on, I'll help you pack.
Bible college. Here I come.
I packed what I could fit in a garbage bag and was on my way to Western Bible College at the crack of dawn. As Ron and I drove through North Dakota, I weighed my situation. Who was I kidding? I had no way to pay for a private college. After I got there, if they wouldn't accept me, I had no money to go home. In fact, I had no home to go back to now. I was in real trouble. I could not afford to go to college. After I got there, I could not afford to leave if I had to. Suddenly, in the middle of that mental respite, it suddenly loomed upon us. The most beautiful spot on earth. Western Bible College. As we drove through campus, all of my fears and doubts vanished, and a peace washed over me. This was my new home. Surely this was where God wanted me. I remembered the sign I had seen as we entered the campus. Behold, he maketh all things new. If nothing else, this was going to be new. Those first few days flew by so fast it made me dizzy. I could not get over the fact that I was surrounded by 300 people my own age, and they were all Christians. I could do nothing but cry out to God who loved me so much. I, who years earlier had been a drug addict, was actually in Bible college. Never had a man been more grateful to God than I was then. I didn't have much time to reflect on this, however. College life was waiting. My first step was a real initiation into college life. The line. The line is famous on all college campuses. First, to register for classes, go through the line. Then, when hungry for supper, to eat in the cafeteria, go through the line. And when it's all over, to graduate, go through the line. My first line in a long line of lines was the registration line. I had stood there, inching my way forward ever so slowly for over an hour, when the student directly in front of me finally approached, the financial aid director.
Name, please.
Don Patrick?
Don Patrick. Yes, there you are. And how do you plan on paying for your school bill?
I have a grant. That is, I think I have a grant, but it hasn't come in yet, so I'm not sure. But if the grant doesn't come in, I'm sure I can get a bank loan from home.
I see. So what you're saying is you don't have any money.
Yes,
I'm afraid you're going to have to take these forms to fill out. Fill them out, and then get back into this line, and then I can see you. Now, if it's after 5 o'clock when you fill them out, then I will see you tomorrow. Thank you. Next.
My name is Ronald Joseph Ransom. I don't think I'll be in your files. That is, well, this is my first semester.
I see. And how do you plan on paying for your school bill?
Well, I don't know. I don't have any money or a grant or anything like that, but God wants me to be here. He'll pay the bill somehow, I promise.
What was your name again?
Ransom. Ronald Joseph Ransom.
Oh, yes. I've heard about you. You are clear to go through registration. Take these forms, fill them out, and then get them back to my office at your earliest convenience. Thank you. Next.
I never did find out how they knew about me, and I never asked. Days passed, and I immersed myself in college life. I loved it. Though I was far from being a social butterfly, I did make some close friends in those early days of my college life. Several of the students and I became very close. Those friends had more of an influence on my life than I realized at the time. Those friends made me see how much we really needed each other. Everything we did together. Some of my most beautiful memories are of a handful of us getting together and praying for each other, sharing our hopes and dreams.
I think it's great, Carol, that you want to be a missionary. We definitely need to spread the gospel all over the world.
So what has gotten into you, Mark? Hey, guys.
Well, I really think he's calling me into ministry as a full-time evangelist. Laid it on my heart about 6 months ago to go from city to city, sharing his message of forgiveness and redemption.
I want to be a teacher.
That's great, Don. That's what I wanted to do too before God called me to missionary work.
Well, I had a terrific science teacher in high school who really made a difference in my life. She's the one who got me thinking about doing that myself. Sorry, guys, I ran from a long way away, but
Yeah.
she's just so awesome. And she made me think about doing that myself. Then God just opened one door after another, and here I am. What about you, Joe? What are you going to be when you grow up?
Well, I don't want to grow up.
Oh, I don't think you'll have much of a choice in that matter.
To tell you the truth, I'm just happy to be here. It's all I've wanted to do for a long time. You know, I don't know what God wants me to do with my life yet, but I want to get to know Him better and serve Him in some way. And I guess that's one of the reasons I'm here, is to learn how to do that.
If you keep seeking His will and direction, He'll show you where He wants you to be.
I sure hope so. I'm just excited to be here.
Enjoy it while you can, Joe, because the excitement will soon wear off.
I don't know about that.
Oh yeah? You know all those teachers that you love so much right now? By midterm, they're not going to be afraid to give D's.
Yeah, and the cafeteria food that tastes so great will taste like cardboard and leather in about a month.
I was wondering what happened to my new leather shoes. Haven't seen them in about a week.
Now you know.
Yeah, and those cardboard boxes I used when I moved in have mysteriously disappeared.
Would you guys cut it out? If you knew what I had to compare this to, you would agree I'm in heaven now.
Yeah, but the way some of that cafeteria food tastes, I think I'm going to be burnt off from straight from you know where.
Mark our words, Joe. The excitement will soon wear off.
They were wrong. Looking back on it now, I can honestly say the excitement only got better, as did our friendships. I must admit, however, that some of those friendships had some interesting facets. For example, Virginia and Carol were not just best friends, they were roommates. Now that was fine, except for the fact that I wanted to date both of them. That made for some interesting and tricky situations. Came to find out, they would cross-examine each other after one of them would go out with me. Then, out of the clear blue, one of them would say,
Joe, which one of us do you like being with the most?
"What?
Well, who do you like being with the most? Me or Virginia?
Carol, I'm not sure I know what you're asking.
Come on, Joe. Do you have more fun with me or with Virginia?
Well, you, of course.
Well, what do you like about me that's better than Virginia?
have to say, you don't get angry quite as easily. You're a lot more feminine, and, well...
Stay still. That's all I'm going to know. See you later.
The trouble was that later I would have the same conversation with Virginia.
Hi, Joe.
Hi, Virginia. How are you?
Oh, I'm just fine. Say, Joe, I've been kind of wanting to ask you something.
Sure. What?
Well, it's kind of personal.
How personal?
Very personal. You see, Joe, I was wondering if you find me more attractive than Carol.
What? Not you, too.
Well, what do you think? Am I prettier?
I'm getting out of here. I can't take this.
Wait, you didn't answer my question. You think Carol's prettier, don't you? That's why you're not answering, isn't it?
When we all got together later, we laughed about the torture they had put me through. Well, they laughed. I mostly just sulked. But all three of us knew early on that nothing serious would come from our friendship, so we never took each other too seriously. My college life could be compared to a meal. My friendships were the dessert, but my studies were the main course. As I became more and more engrossed in my studies, I became even more thankful that I was at Bible college. In 2 months, even I could see changes in my life. God was doing a major overhaul on me, and I was excited about the changes his continued work would bring. He began to show me many things about myself. One of the most important was my selfishness. I had spent my entire life living only to please me, and when a man lives only for himself, he can never be truly happy inside. Unless a person is willing to open himself up to others, he cannot be prepared for the pain that comes from loving. I had always felt that love simply cost too much. I wasn't willing to pay the price for love because I was afraid of being rejected. But all of that was about to change. The close relationships with my friends in Western began to thaw the ice that had been my selfishness and independence. The glacier melted completely when a young lady named Jamie came into my life. Jamie was the kind of young lady every guy on campus wanted to ask for a date, but none of them were brave enough. She was more than just beautiful. She was talented. She sang, played the piano, and wrote gospel songs. She could even draw. And her eyes smiled whenever she laughed. I liked her immediately, but I knew we could never have a serious relationship. After all, she could never pick up almost any guy on campus. She'd have to be crazy to pick me. She was crazy. I never did understand why she wanted to spend time with me, but I was pleased with her taste in men. Our relationship grew over the coming weeks and months. It was good to have someone to talk to share my thoughts with. We had common dreams and goals and spent many long hours talking about them.
Jamie, I think I finally know what God wants me to do with my life.
Well, that's great, Joe.
You know, when I got here, I just happy to be here. I didn't have a real clear direction.
And now?
And now I know. I believe God is calling me to a drama ministry.
You mean like an actor or something?
Yeah, I've always enjoyed that type of stuff. I believe God could reach lives and touch lives through a ministry like that. I want to reach a dying world for Jesus, Jamie. It's what my heart's crying out to do.
Well, how would you do it?
Well, I thought a lot about that. I could become part of a church drama group, or I could go on mission trips from school and use drama to evangelize. Or I have a lot of ideas and I could write my own plays and go around to different churches and perform those plays. Or I could become part of a Christian theater someplace. Why, the possibilities are virtually endless.
Well, you sound pretty excited about it. Have you told anybody else?
No, I wanted you to be the first.
You did? That's really sweet, Joe.
Well, you know me, the king of sweet. Besides, I know how you want to serve God with your talents too, so I knew you would understand.
Oh, I do. I want nothing more than to serve God and to touch lives using my music.
Maybe we could do something together.
That'd be great. We can use your drama and my music.
I can see it now. The Joe and Jamie show.
Hey, wait a minute. Don't you mean the Jamie and Joe show?
Oh, that's what I meant.
I thought so.
As our relationship grew, and as we continued to share our dreams and goals, I knew I was falling in love. The Valentine's pact was coming up, and I wanted it to be special for both of us. I I did was to buy a new suit. Then I borrowed $10 from my roommate and went shopping. Jamie was already in line for dinner as I entered the banquet hall, so calmly as possible I walked up to her and handed her the biggest box of candy either of us had ever seen. Then I took the corsage I had behind my back and started to pin it on her dress. She was beautiful and I was nervous. I was all thumbs and she started to blush. She wanted to help me but knew that would embarrass me even more. Finally, I turned to the man standing behind her in line and said, "Excuse me, can you please pin this on her? I can't seem to work the pin." Now she was really blushing. It was then, as I turned around again, that I saw I had just asked the president of the college to pin the corsage on my head. After Jamie and I sat down to eat, it was difficult to start a conversation.
I really like your suit, Joe. Is that new?
Yeah, I got it on sale. I only paid $12 for it. I got a hat, too. Say, Jamie, you look awfully pretty tonight. Would you like some more roast beef?
No thanks, Joe. The roast beef I still have on my plate will be enough.
It's awfully hot and stuffy in here. Would you like to go for a walk?
What about the roast beef I still have on my plate?
Well, you could bring it with us if you wanted to.
That's okay. I think I'll just finish here and then we can go outside.
I let her finish the roast beef. The fresh air felt good as we walked. We sat on a bench near the chapel and looked at the light shining from the banquet to the cafeteria. After a moment, I spoke.
Jamie, there's something I need to ask you.
Joe, I really don't think that I'm ready for any kind of commitment.
No, it's nothing like that. It's just that something's been on my mind lately, and I need to talk to you about it.
Is that what had you so upset in there?
Well, that's part of it. Jamie, why haven't you ever asked me about my eyes? It's obvious that there's something wrong with them, at least one of them.
Is that all that's bothering you? It doesn't make any difference to me. I mean, it's not like you're blind or anything. You are who you are, regardless of how your eyes look. Besides, Joe, it wouldn't matter to me even if you were blind. I promise.
You mean that? Honestly?
Yes, I mean that. I mean, this is really bothering you, isn't it? Joe, there's something else you're not telling me. Now, what is it?
Well, like I said, my left eye is blind. That's from a freak accident of birth.
Freak accident?
My mother tried to kill herself before I was born.
Joe, that's awful.
Well, she lived, but I was permanently injured. Like I said, my left eye is totally blind, and my right eye has never been very good, but I can see pretty well with glasses. My teachers always told me to wear my glasses, but like most kids that age, I never paid much attention to what my teachers said. Because my eyes weren't very good, I was never very good at sports, and while my brother was outside playing football and baseball, I was in my bedroom reading. It was the one thing I could do well. I knew even as a little kid that if I put too much strain on my eyes, I could lose the only good eye I had. And I guess I just never let it sink in. You know, books were too important to me. They were the only friends I had. Well, you know how college is. You can't help but spend most of your time reading. And I don't want to alarm you or anything, but I've been having some pretty strong headaches lately. And I think I know why.
Joe, if it's because of your eyes, you've got to quit school.
And quit my dream? No, I've got to get an education. Besides, I'm sure it's nothing serious, probably just my imagination. I just had to tell you, Jamie, because you're so important to me. I never want to lose you, no matter what.
Joe, you won't ever lose me, no matter what.
to hold her close to me when she said that, but I knew it wouldn't be proper. Not only because the administration would have frowned on it, but because it would have violated the standards which we had already established for our relationship. The disciplines to which we adhered served to mature our commitment not only to ourselves, but more importantly, to God. Besides, just holding her hand was enough to please her. As our relationship continued to grow, we spent more and more time together, I began to think of my future as our future. I was in love. The only thing left to do was pop the question. Now, how to ask her to marry me was a real problem. I didn't want to be like everyone else. I wanted it to be a special moment for Jamie. I wanted it to be just perfect. So while Jamie ate lunch one day, I rehearsed my speech. I decided that right after lunch, I'd take her by the hand, we would walk to the park. We would sit on our favorite bench under the oak tree, and I would very romantically ask her to marry me. It didn't happen quite as I had planned it.
Hi, guys.
Oh, hey, Joe. Hey, where have you been? I thought you were going to eat lunch with me today.
Well, I was, busy.
Oh,
Say, Jamie, would you like to go for a walk?
thanks, Joe. But I've got a ton of schoolwork here that has got to get finished. Was there something special you wanted to talk about?
Well, yes, there is.
Well, you can tell me here. Go ahead and have a seat. I've got a few minutes.
Well, it's kind of personal. I really need to see you alone.
Joe, I don't understand. What is it?
Jamie, if I was to ask you, not that I am, but, well, if I was, well, would you?
Huh?
I mean, you wouldn't have to quit school or anything like that. And if anything happened, like, well, you know, like what happens when people get, well, you know, well, I could get a second job to help pay the extra expenses. And, well, you know what I mean.
Joseph, I don't have the slightest idea what you're talking about. Now, wait a minute.
Jamie, I really...
What was that?
Jamie, will you...
Are you trying to ask me something?
I hope we're not disturbing you two.
You are?
Good. Proposals are so much fun.
That's it. I can't take it anymore. Well, will you...
Not until you ask me properly.
Jamie? Will you marry? Jamie, I love you, and I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Will you marry me?
Yes.
Thanks. I'll make you very happy.
I love you, Joe. You already have.
She said yes.
As the days passed, I felt like a little boy again. My relationship with God grew as my relationship with Jamie grew. For the first time in my life, everything was going even better than I could have dreamed. I had everything that any man could ever hope for. These last days of school, that spring semester, were awesome. As I stood there, I remembered. I had everything that any man could ever in his life hope for. Because I was not allowed to officially become engaged during my freshman year, I was not allowed to give Jamie an engagement ring. Really didn't matter much though, because I couldn't afford one anyway. So instead of a ring, I gave her a gold bracelet with her name inscribed on the front. On the back was the inscription, Jamie, I will love you forever, Joe. As far as we were concerned, that bracelet was far more precious than any engagement ring. Those last days of school, that spring semester, were filled with final tasks, banquets, and tearful goodbyes, it felt good to know that most of my friends would be back next year, and I would return as a married man. Jamie and I had decided on a July wedding. So while she went home to do whatever it is young ladies do to prepare for a wedding, I made plans to find us a place to live. After I bought a small trailer, I moved to Steel Tower, South Dakota. I missed Jamie, but I knew that in 1 month we would be married. Besides, I had a busy summer ahead of me. I was involved in 2 churches in Steel Tower and working in 2 restaurants. In addition to this, I made the 80-mile round-trip drive whenever possible to Allentown to see friends who had stayed at school for the summer. Like many people, I had always felt that the true Christian never suffers real pain. The Christian life is full of roses. I had forgotten. Roses have thorns. I was not prepared for the long-distance phone call that came in the middle of the night.
Hello?
Joe?
Yes?
Joe, this is Mrs. Gilbert, Jamie's mother.
Mrs. Gilbert? Is it Jamie? Is she all right?
There's been an accident.
What happened?
Jamie is... Oh, Joe! My Jamie is dead!
Oh, I just talked with her yesterday on the phone.
Well, she went to pick up her wedding dress. She was on her way home. And this drunk driver...
What can I do?
Well, I don't think there's anything anyone can...
I've got to do something for you, for Jamie.
No, there's nothing anyone can do now. Oh, Joe, I know how much Jamie loved you. She always tried to get us together before the wedding. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that it has to be this way instead of at the wedding.
Please, remember, Mrs. Gilbert, Jamie is a part of the bride of Christ, and he's called her home to him. She's with her eternal husband now, and happy beyond our comprehension. We don't always understand why these things happen, but God does, and we must trust in Him.
I know, Joe. But she was my baby.
I'll get her right up there as soon as I can, if that's okay.
That would be nice.
I'll see you soon, Mrs. Gilbert.
Joe,
Yes,
please be careful.
I will. Goodbye.
No! Don't know how I had the strength to encourage Mrs. Gilbert like that, while my own heart was being ripped apart. No, that's not right. I do know. God's grace and His Spirit visited me in those agonizing moments, and it was only by His grace that I survived the following days and weeks. I was too hurt to cry. I felt that if I cried, I would have to give her up forever. I wanted to cling to Jamie as long as possible. After about 2 months, I realized that not every thought was of Jamie. One day I noticed I had smiled. Another day I laughed. God's strength and grace were sustaining me. I had never been more alone. God had never been more real. A few weeks before school was to start again, I received a letter in the mail. It was from Mrs. Gilbert. She had sent me the bracelet I had given Jamie. Somehow it had been destroyed in the mail. It was broken in several pieces, and I knew it could never be repaired.
Why, God? It was all I had left. Why did the post office have to destroy it? It was all I had.
Quietly, I was reminded of a picture Jamie had drawn for me the night I gave her the bracelet. I dug through some boxes until I found it. It was a drawing of the empty tomb of Christ. Across the top were the words, "He is not here. He is risen." That was the way God wanted me to remember Janie. She was no longer here. She was in heaven. As much as I missed her, I could not wish her back with me. I wouldn't do it even if I could. She was far happier in heaven than I could ever make her here on earth. Last, I let the tears flow freely for the girl I loved. Goodbye, Janie. The next year brought many changes. Although much appeared to be the same as it was a year ago, some things had indeed changed. I had grown a year older. Jamie was no longer by my side. My friendships with other students had grown stronger. And I was going blind. I knew it for sure now, although I still did not admit it. My friends could tell what was happening, but we never spoke of it. They knew I would speak when I was ready. It was harder for me to read for any length of time, and the headaches were becoming unbearable. I was scared, so I finally went to see an eye specialist. His advice was unsettling and unacceptable.
I told you I can't quit school, Doctor.
Joe, I just don't see any other alternative here.
And if I quit school, will I go blind anyway?
Well, yeah, probably.
Then what good will
But
it
it
do?
could be years before that happens. Your eye's infected, and the more you read and strain your eye, the faster the infection works. The optic nerve is damaged, and I don't think I can stop the infection here. I can only pull stones. And that means you gotta quit school.
I told you I can't.
Or at least quit for a little while. Just take some time off. Maybe after a little
Doctor, I know me. If I quit even for a little while, I'll never go back. You said it yourself, if I quit school, I'll go blind anyway. Well, then what?
Well, what do you mean?
I mean, then I would be blind and have no education. That doesn't sound like a very good option to me. I will stay in school, and somehow I will finish.
Joe, I just don't think that's a real wise decision there.
If I have to go blind, then it's a small price to pay for an education.
The doctor realized he would not change my mind, so he let me go home. Before I left, however, he said something about my being stubborn. He tried to say it in a nice way. Regardless of how he said it, he was right. My stubborn independence was clearly evident to all those around me. I chose not to speak of my decreasing vision, but continued on as if nothing were wrong. I could handle this situation myself, thank you very much. School year ended, summer passed, and I looked forward to the coming school year with new expectancy. This would be my last year. I would finally graduate. My dream would be realized, and I would prove to my doctor that I could finish my education. At the beginning of the school year, however, I made a terrible mistake, one that I regretted for a long time. A friend and I had been talking about what our lives were like before we came to college. I casually told him about my past.
So you used to do drugs? That's pretty hard to believe.
That was a long time ago.
Well, tell me about it.
Well, things at home weren't going too well, and I needed an escape. And since I didn't have any place to go, I started taking some pills and other things. And when it got where I couldn't stay at home any longer, I left. And by the time I was in high school, I'd moved around quite a bit. But my problems always seemed to go with me. I started taking more pills, and it started affecting my schoolwork, and that in turn made me take more pills. I was on a dead-end cycle, and then on my 18th birthday, I took too many pills, and I woke up in the hospital fighting for my life.
That must have been scary.
It was. When I look back on my life, I wasn't very proud of what I saw. I'd ruined my health with drugs, and I'd been arrested for several minor offenses, and I was on a fast track to nowhere.
Well, then what happened?
Well, I'd pretty much lost all contact with my family and friends, and I was struggling just to survive. When I wasn't on drugs, I was working just to stay alive. I decided after I was released from the hospital that I needed to get my life back on track, so I moved into a motel in Missoula, Montana to get my life started over again. And then after a long, drawn-out fight with school officials, I was even allowed to return to high school.
And you lived happily ever after, right?
Well, not exactly. It was by sheer willpower I was able to stop taking drugs, and by all outside appearances, things seemed to be going in my favor. I got a job as a custodian, and I even worked in the state forestry service. I had moved into a 2-room apartment, and then later, as my finances increased, I moved into a small trailer house. Why, in March, I even graduated early from high school.
Wait a second, Joe. That all sounds pretty good to me. What's wrong with that?
Well, John, it wasn't enough that my physical circumstances had changed. I was the same person on the inside. I still felt restless, and I felt dirty and lonely, and to tell you the truth, I was honestly no but happier than I'd been as a drug addict. And then I look back on my life, I remember this particular teacher I had. He was a great example to me. He spent many long hours telling me how Jesus had died so that I could have a real and meaningful life. And he proved his words by the way he lived. You know, I'd never met a man like that. He was a great influence on me.
That's great.
And then when I was in a hospital from the drug overdose, there's this pastor that come to visit someone from his church every day. He really bothered me. He was always happy and friendly, and every time he'd come up to me, I'd give him a hard time, say, listen, man, I don't need that. I can make it on my own.
Did he leave you alone?
Are you kidding? If anything, he kept coming around more often. He's still happy and friendly. I finally realized that I couldn't make it on my own, and several months after I was released from the hospital, I visited his church on a Sunday morning. As he was shaking my hands after service that morning, I told him I would never be back. I went back that evening. He spoke very simply how Jesus had died on a cross, and that if I really wanted to live, all I had to do was ask him into my heart and have him forgive me of my sins and mistakes. And as millions of others had done before me, I knelt there at a wooden bench and asked Jesus into my life. And as he forgave me, I forgave myself. Well, that was a true beginning of my life.
And then you lived happily ever after, right?
Well, not exactly, but it has been easier ever since.
Joe, that's such an incredible story. Well, I mean, about how your life used to be, but how you've changed for the better. You really should tell more people.
People don't need to know about that. Those days are long gone. How Jesus has made me a totally new creature and what he's doing in my life right now. That's what people need to know about.
Apparently, John didn't quite agree with me. He obviously felt it was his duty to tell other people about my past. And the more people he told, the more the story grew. The more the story grew, the less truth it actually held. Finally, the inevitable happened. I was called in to see the dean.
Have a seat, Joe. Joe, it's come to my attention that you've been telling people some uncomfortable stories about yourself. Like the fact that you've used drugs and you have a criminal record. Are these things true, Joe?
Yes, sir.
And the list goes on with other details about your past. What do you have to say for yourself?
Well, as far as the list goes, part of it's true. After all, most rumors are based on truth. But no, not all of it's true. Besides, those things I'm accused of doing happened long before I came to school here. I mean, why do you ask me about that?
You mean you feel justified in hiding these things from the school?
I wasn't hiding them, sir, but with all due respect, that's none of your business. Those things I'm accused of doing, Jesus Christ forgave me for a long time ago. You don't ask all the other students about their past, do you?
Well, not exactly.
Then you have no right to ask me about mine. Besides, if you look at your record, you will find I told you about my past.
I beg your pardon?
Well, I didn't tell you all the gory details, but if you look at my application for admission, you'll see that I told you I'd made mistakes in the past. And that's exactly what they are, mistakes, and in the past.
I see. Well, if we hear more about this concerning you, Mr. Ransom, we will have to take action. What I am concerned about is the here and now. Do you understand, sir?
Yes, sir.
Then you are dismissed.
I was scared when I left the dean's office that day. From that point on, I didn't know how to act or what to say. I felt like anything I said would get me kicked out of school. The stories continued, however, and all I could do was pray for the man spreading them. I knew it was John, but I couldn't hate him. Could only feel sorry for him, pray for him. That situation, as scary as it was not my biggest concern at the moment. I was seeing more and more doctors, and they were all telling me the same thing. I was going to lose my sight. Schoolwork was becoming more difficult, and it was harder to walk to school. Still, I continued on. I had no choice. As the days and weeks continued, I sensed for a long time that I would be called in again to see the dean. It was a meeting I had dreaded for a long time. I was thankful he at least let me speak before I left.
Therefore, because you blatantly disregarded my warning from the previous meeting, I have no other choice but to ask you to leave Western Bible College immediately. Do you understand, Mr. Ransom?
I understand. May I say something, sir?
You may, but it won't make any difference.
I know what I'm accused of, sir, and I also know that I'm innocent. I can see things from your point of view, and whether I'm guilty or not isn't the issue here. It doesn't look good for the school to have me here. If the people who supported WBC knew about me, they might stop sending you money or letting their kids come here, but you have told me to leave, and I can't argue with you, but I just want to let you know that I will finish Bible school somewhere. No matter where I go, I will never say anything to anyone against this school. Some of the best years of my life have been spent here. As far as I'm concerned, this is as close to heaven as I will ever get on earth. I'm grateful for all that you have done for me. That's all I wanted to say.
Goodbye, Mr. Ransom.
Why, God? Why do I have to get kicked out of school for something that I didn't do? Why can't I finish my education? Why can't I finish my...
That blow was devastating. The wind was completely taken out of my sails. I didn't know what to do next. My first concern was to get back on my feet and start walking. As difficult as that was, I had to do it. Yes, school had been interrupted. My dream had been interrupted. My whole life had been interrupted. But somehow, somewhere, I was determined to finish school. There was no question about it. The question was where. Little did I know the answer to that question would take me nearly 800 miles away to a place called Springfield, Missouri. Pickup cab heading south. I had said goodbye to my friends and their questions. All I could tell them was that I had to leave Allentown and I had to finish school. I had talked the situation over with a friend from school, and he told me that I should go to Evangel College in Springfield, Missouri, because I wanted a drama degree along with my Bible degree. I figured I had nothing to lose, so I took a ride with a friend going to Arkansas with his family. That is how I found myself in a crowded pickup cab with him, his wife, their 2 children, their pet dog, and my trailer swaying in the wind behind us. It was a long, uncomfortable trip, to say the least. We arrived in Springfield, Missouri about 11 o'clock at night and found the trailer court I was to live in. As we pulled onto the trailer lot, we heard a strange clicking sound. As the ignition was turned off, the tongue to the trailer hitch broke. God had seen to it that my trailer had gone as far as he intended it to go. But when it had reached its final destination, he let me know it was to go no further. After I'd been settled in for a few days and knew my way around the area, I decided to walk to Evangel and see my new campus. And as soon as I stepped on campus, something felt wrong. It didn't seem like home, not like WBC had. It was then God spoke to my heart. It told me this was not his place for me, at least not now. Someday I would go to Evangel, but now was not the time. As I walked home that night, I took a wrong turn and ended up at another campus, Central Bible College. And as soon as I stepped on campus, I knew this was where God wanted me. I stood at a little footbridge and listened to the water trickle by as I thanked God for sending me to Springfield, Missouri. By the time school started that next semester, I knew my way around town and could walk the 5 miles from my trailer in West Carty to CBC. My sight was failing, but I still had too much stubborn pride to ask for help unless there was nothing I could do about the matter. My pride was so strong, in fact, that I refused to use a white cane. White canes are for blind people, after all. Instead, I used a walking cane and let everyone think I had a bad leg. The rest of the school year was spent making and developing friendships and doing my classwork. In addition to this, I had the opportunity to be part of a traveling ministry group that went to California, where we were involved in street witnessing, church painting, and prayer as well as drama. The response to the dramas was wonderful. Many people were touched by the message and told me that God had used the plays to change their lives. That was when God spoke to my heart and told me that one day soon my dream of using drama to minister would be realized. My sight was failing, but I was excited about what God was doing in my life, and God sent me a special friend named Dana to share in that excitement.
Hi, Dana. Working hard?
Hey, Joe. I see you made it back from Big Sky Country. How was the Great White North?
About the same as always.
Oh, that bad, huh?
I'm afraid so. By the time I got there, the funeral was over, so there wasn't a lot I could do to help.
I'm sorry. I know how much you would like to have been there for the funeral.
Yeah, but since I was in California on the missions trip, no one could get in touch with me. By the time the telegram caught up with me, it was too late.
You were pretty close to your grandma, weren't you?
Closer than I've been to anyone. She did more for me than anybody else in my family.
I had an uncle like that once.
But you know, the whole time I was in Montana, I kept thinking that I should have written her one more letter to tell her that I loved her. I should have called her one last time, but it's too late now.
I'm sorry.
But you know, I'll never miss another chance to let one of my friends know that I love them, as long as I live.
So how was your dad?
You mean towards me?
Well, yeah.
Same old, same old. He wouldn't even see me. He doesn't want a relationship with me any more than he wants a relationship with one of his horses.
That's a pretty strong statement.
I know, I shouldn't have said it. What I should have said is he would rather have a relationship with one of his horses than he would with me.
I don't think that's any better.
Maybe not, but it's more accurate.
So, did anybody ask about your sight?
Not a word. There's no way I could avoid letting them see I was losing my sight. I still refused to use a white cane, and I used a walking cane instead, and just never discussed my eyesight with anyone.
You mean your sisters didn't even ask about it?
Not a word.
So, how is your vision?
Not so great. I'm noticing changes almost daily now. That's the hardest thing for me to accept, is not being able to read. Books have always been my life, and now I can't even read them.
Well, that must be frustrating.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've just heard the understatement of the year right here in this room.
Sorry.
That's okay. You know, the more I study my Bible, the more I realize that even if I don't understand what's going on or why, God knows all about it.
Well, that's what's really important.
Yeah, and if he has a reason for me to be blind, I mean, if he can use me more effectively through my blindness, then I won't complain. I know God has the power to heal me, and if he does, I'll be very thankful, but if he chooses not to, then I won't complain. Besides, I'll be healed in heaven anyway, so either way, I can't lose.
So what are you going to do?
I don't know. I still have to do my schoolwork somehow. You don't know Braille, do you?
Are you kidding? I can barely read some of those literature books in my English class. I'd never be able to let my fingers do the walking through some book.
You could have just said no.
You know, I I do know somebody who goes to my church who might be able to help you out. She goes to Evangel part-time and works for Springfield Association for the Blind.
Did you say she?
Yes, Romeo. Her name is Michelle.
From the first time Michelle came to my home to give me Braille lessons, I was impressed with her. She had a beautiful personality, and I was told she was just as beautiful on the outside as she was on the inside. She had great patience as she taught me a new way to read and write, and the things I learned from her kept open for me a world I was afraid I was losing.
Hello?
Mr. Ransom?
Mr. Ransom's my dad. You can call me Joe.
Well, all right, Joe. I'm Michelle. We spoke on the phone about my teaching you Braille.
Great. My couch is in and to the left. We can study in here.
Great.
I'm sorry.
You said that you need to learn Braille very quickly.
I have a term paper due in 2 weeks, and I can't see to do it any other way.
Then you haven't been blind that long.
My eyesight's never been very good, and I've been putting so much strain on him lately, it just keeps getting worse.
Well, maybe I can help.
How long have you been blind?
Well, since birth.
So Braille's almost second nature to you.
Well, first nature, actually. It's all I know. Unlike you, Braille's the only way I've ever been able to read.
Well, looks like I picked the right person to teach me.
Well, I'll do my best. Are you ready to get started?
My term paper awaits.
Since you have a deadline, you'll want to practice this as much as possible in order to learn it.
I'll do whatever it takes.
Great. The first thing that you'll need to learn is the Braille alphabet. Since you've been able to see in the past, you're already familiar with the forms and the shapes of the letters. This page takes the letters you already know and places the Braille letters above them. Let me see your hand. See?
Well, no, I can't. That's why you're here.
I mean, can you feel that? It's the letter A. Above it is the Braille A.
I feel it.
And beside that is the letter B. And above it is the Braille B.
One dot above another.
Right. Each letter and character in Braille consists of a cell. Each cell consists of 6 dots, 2 vertical columns of 3 dots each.
Here's an O.
Now feel the dots above it.
3 dots. 2 on the left, on the top and bottom, and 1 on the right in the middle.
Right. Each of those dots are numbered 1 through 6. 1 through 3 are on the left from top to bottom, and 4 through 6 are on the right.
So for the letter O, the dots are 1, 3, and 5.
Very good. You're a quick study.
Thanks.
It'll help if you start to think of those dots in terms of their numbers. That'll help when you start to use a Braille writer or a slate and stylus.
A Braille what?
A Braille writer. It's like a typewriter, but it puts dots on the paper. I brought one you can borrow. You'll learn how to use it as soon as you learn the alphabet and punctuation and some other stuff.
What else did you say? A slate and...
And stylus. You'll use this for note-taking in class, but you'll need to learn how to make each of the characters backwards before you can use it.
Why?
Well, you'll use the stylus to make indentions from right to left, and you'll pull the paper out, turn it over and upside down in order to read the dots. So the characters will need to be made backwards to start with.
Great.
It's not so bad. Just be careful with letters like R and W.
Why?
Well, W is a backwards R in Braille, and it's the same way with some of the other letters too, so you'll need to pay close attention.
It sounds confusing.
Practice, 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 and you'll be doing this in your sleep.
Who has time for sleep? I'll be spending all my time just learning this stuff.
You'll do fine. Is there a time tomorrow when I can come by?
Tomorrow?
Well, yes, you didn't think one lesson is all you would need, did you?
Well...
You're catching on fairly quickly, but this could take you weeks or months to get it down pat. Besides, I still have to teach you things like punctuation and contractions.
You mean I can't take this one lesson and know it all?
Oh, I'm afraid not.
I see.
Oh, you do? Well, it's a miracle, I guess, if you can see it if you don't need me. Now, what about tomorrow?
I guess about the same time will be fine with me.
Great. I'm sure I can get someone to drive me over then. Now, let's get back to these letters.
Finger calluses, here I come.
And the calluses did come, eventually. As I got better at reading and writing in Braille, I felt like a part of my life was given back to me. It's not to say there weren't frustrations and setbacks, but what could have been an insurmountable mountain for me was smoothed into nothing more than a speed bump through God's provision. By this time, my walking cane was useless to me, and I was forced to do the one thing I never wanted to do. I had to learn to use a white cane. I was rather awkward with it until Michelle taught me how to use it properly. As accustomed as I was to the idea of going blind, part of me was still scared. I was afraid of what being blind would do to me as a person. After Michelle gave me my first lesson, I walked outside to practice. I tripped on the cane right away. That set up a trigger of emotions from deep within me. I grabbed the cane by its handle and swung with all my might at the nearest tree. As I hit the tree, I yelled, "It is unfair! I don't want to be blind! Oh, God! Why am I this way?" Hit the tree. I heard the cane break in two. I sat down and cried. Releasing those pent-up emotions seemed to help a little. Following that outburst, I forced myself to get back into the flow of things. I had to learn to do everything all over again. I could no longer do the things I'd taken for granted for so many years. How does a blind man go grocery shopping, or do his cooking, or do his schoolwork? I needed answers to my questions. But I decided to find my answers on my own. I still had too much stubborn pride and self-reliance to ask for help. I didn't ask, but I got an answer anyway. Dana needed a place to stay for the summer, so he moved in with me. I honestly don't think I could have managed those first months alone. Provided transportation whenever he could, but I was still walking nearly 300 miles a month. And the white cane I had avoided for so long soon became a close friend. My grocery shopping and cooking also improved. Well, I don't know that Dana would say the quality improved, but at least I was able to do it without my sight. As the days and weeks passed, I grew more accustomed or used to being blind, as much as that's possible. Still, I had many questions. I decided to talk to one of my professors about my questions.
Ah, come in, Joe. Have a seat. What can I do for you?
Well, sir, I was just wondering about what I was going to do after I graduated. I mean, a degree is useless unless somebody will hire me. I just wanted to know what you thought the chances of me finding a good job.
Well, you want my honest opinion?
Yes, sir.
Well, Joe, I think you should consider quitting school.
Not you, too.
I'm sure there's a trade or something some blind organization can give you. You're smart, and you've got your life pretty well together.
Thank you, but...
But you will never be able to preach. No minister would ever let you speak from his pulpit. And as for your drama, there's just no way you could act as a sighted person on stage.
With all due respect, sir, I've been hearing those same things for the last 2 years, and I'm tired of it. Why doesn't anyone ever believe in me?
I'm sorry, Joe, but you wanted my honest opinion, and you need to face the facts.
I need to face the facts that everyone else is unwilling to face the facts that I will succeed.
I don't doubt that you will succeed, Joe, but Maybe you could work with other handicapped people or something.
Thanks for your opinion, sir. I did ask for it. But before I go, I just want to say that for the last 2 years, people have been telling me that I don't belong in school. Yet I've proven that I do belong in school. I make very good grades. I'm involved in several ministries. I will not only play a sighted person on stage, but someday I will have the lead role in a play. I'm going to finish Bible school, and I'm also going to attend classes to learn how to act. I know what I can do, and I'm determined to do it. Oh, and by the way, I'm not handicapped. I'll see you tomorrow in class.
Apparently, I still had a hard time controlling my emotions. After I cooled down, I would go back and apologize for my actions. I would not, however, apologize for my words. I had been dealing with that same kind of narrow-mindedness for a long time, and I was tired of hearing that I should just give up on my dreams, find something more suited for a blind man. I often wondered who had more of a vision problem, me or them. I enrolled in some drama classes at the State University that fall semester in order to compete with students who had more of a background in drama than I did. That step was the first in a series that would change my life forever. There are many obstacles to one's Christian faith at a state university, and I faced my share. There were many projects that I felt went against my Christian conviction, and I refused to do them. By God's grace, I was always allowed to do alternate assignments. Soon became common knowledge that I was a Christian, and a stubborn Christian to boot. That meant that I had to constantly be aware of my actions, but it was a good experience. I knew that people were looking at me first not as a blind man, but as a Christian. I also began to open myself up to more people. I had been afraid of starting a relationship with any of the young ladies I knew. I was afraid of losing someone again. I lost Jamie. The pain of losing her had eased, but I was still cautious. Then I met Angie. Angie was the first person I had met since losing my sight, who honestly didn't seem to care whether I could see or not. We just enjoyed being with each other, and that was all that mattered to either one of us. We started spending our lunch hours together. Soon became my favorite part of the day. And after talking over hamburgers for 3 weeks, I finally asked her out.
Man, I don't think I'll ever understand the economic structure of the pre-revolutionary Russian Tsar system. And will you please tell me why it will ever matter to me how African violets pollinate?
Who knows? Teachers just cover that stuff so we don't get too overconfident.
Well, that's not likely to happen to me in Western Civ or Botany. I feel about as dumb as a rock.
That dumb, huh?
Usually.
Well, I bet you're the prettiest dumb rock in class.
What?
I said I bet you're the prettiest dumb...
I heard what you said. I just can't believe you said it. I'm trying really hard not to be offended.
Offended? What did I say now?
You called me a dumb rock.
Oh. But I called you a pretty dumb rock. I don't mean a rock that's pretty dumb. I mean a dumb rock that's pretty. Oh, never mind. There's no way out of this one.
You're right about that.
Excuse me while I go crawl under a rock and hide.
A dumb rock?
Yeah, but I'll make sure it's an ugly one.
Oh, Joe, I like you. You're fun.
Thanks. Say, Angie, I was wondering if you'd like to go out with me sometime.
You mean like a date or something?
Yeah.
Sure, Joe. Where do you want to go?
I don't know. I just feel like doing something really crazy.
Crazy?
Yeah, something a blind person would never even think of doing.
Hey, what about roller skating?
But I've never been on skates in my life.
Then it's about time you learn what you've been missing, mister.
I did say crazy, didn't I?
You did.
This is about as crazy as it gets. There's probably not a lot of blind people on roller skates these days.
Well, not until tonight. You'll probably start a nationwide craze among the blind.
I seriously doubt that.
And so we went roller skating. When we got to the roller rink, we realized that if I walked in with my white cape, the manager would never let me out on the floor. So we walked in arm in arm. I preferred it like that anyway. That way Angie could lead me without anyone else knowing what she was really doing. We looked like any other couple out on a date. As we began putting on our skates, I began to realize just how nervous I was about this whole thing. Well, I would probably break my neck. And not only that, I would probably hurt someone else as well. I smiled weakly at Angie as we finished putting on our skates.
Are you sure about this?
I'm sure. How about you?
Yeah, it'll be great.
All you need to remember is to relax and keep your skates under you. Don't try to go too fast at first.
Where will you be when I'm breaking my neck?
I'll be right beside you. Just let me know if you need a steady arm.
I need a steady arm.
You haven't even started yet.
Oh.
Just go slowly until you feel more comfortable.
Angie,
Yes?
when you take me to the emergency room, will you?
I'm
Whoa! What are you doing?
I came to skate. We're wasting time. It's going to be time to lock the building before we start skating.
Would that be so bad? Are we the only ones out here? I don't hear any other skaters.
No, everyone else is pretty much staying away from us.
Why? I mean, just because I'm flailing my arms around like this. I've never been on stage before.
That would be it.
I must be a sight. No pun intended. Thanks. I'm having a great time.
So am I.
We did have a great time. It was a beautiful evening. And by the time we left, I was actually skating like I had some idea of what I was doing. Amazingly, I didn't fall the entire night. And more importantly, I hadn't hurt anyone else either. I guess it was obvious by the way I struggled that I was new to the skating world. Just let everyone know they should stay clear of me. And as far as I know, no one even knew I was blind. That exception, if you will, was a prominent part of my life. I still struggle not only with my place in the sighted world, but also with my place in the blind world. In my mind, I was still sighted, but in my eyes, I wasn't. By going to that roller rink, I had proved my point that I could function just fine in the world of the sighted. Still, the inner battle raged that evening. After a long silence, Angie finally said something.
What's wrong, Joe? I've never seen you so quiet.
Huh?
You've hardly said anything since we finished skating.
I was just thinking.
That usually means trouble.
Yeah, probably.
What is it?
Well, Angie, I had a great time tonight,
So did I.
but I don't think we should see each other again.
Why? You just said you had fun.
Well, we really like each other a lot, and this could lead to something really nice, but I don't think either of us wants that.
What are you talking about?
I'm blind, Angie. It could never work out between us.
Yes, it would. I don't care if you're blind, Joe.
Not now, but eventually you would. Eventually I would start to depend too much on you, and you'd start to resent it. And me.
There's something you're not telling me.
I know, but I don't know if I can explain it.
What is it?
When I first started to go blind, I told myself that I would never act blind. I knew what people expected blind people to act like, and I refused to fill that stereotype. I figured if I didn't act blind, then no one would see me as blind.
And I don't see what's wrong with that.
I want to stay in the sighted world, Angie, but I can't. And I don't want to be a part of a blind world, but I have no choice. It's not like it would be if I was born blind. Then I would easily belong in a blind world. But the way it is now, I'm a part of both worlds, and at the same time. And I'm not comfortable with either.
I don't understand what that has to do with us.
I can't make any lasting decisions until I know for sure where I belong. It's best to end this relationship now before it goes any further. It'll save us both a lot of pain later on.
I understand what you're saying, Joe, but I just think...
I know what I'm doing, Angie, and I'm right.
sorry it has to be this way.
So am I. Please understand, this doesn't have anything to do with you. It has to do with what's going on inside of me.
I know. I'll see you around, Joe.
Goodbye, Angie.
Goodbye, Joe.
After that, I spent little time socializing. Aside from my classwork, most of my time and energy was spent working on my trailer. I had a greenhouse, a wood-burning furnace, and more furniture and plants. I took great pride in the work I was doing on my home. It gave me some place to focus my attention. Still, the inner battles raged. I still struggled with where I was and with where I belonged. I felt like I was perched on a fence between the world of the sighted and the world of the blind, and I didn't know how much of each world to embrace. And what would I do once I made that decision? I knew what I didn't want. I didn't want to be blind. At least I didn't want the rest of the world to know I was blind. I was fine when I was with my friends, having fun and pretending to be sighted. But when I was left alone with my thoughts, I still struggled with such things as how to do my schoolwork and my future employment. It wasn't that I tried to hide my blindness from others. After all, it was obvious to anyone who spent any time with me that I was blind. No, it was more that I tried very hard to not make it an issue. In spite of the inner struggles, life went on. I got involved in a church called Christian Life Center. It was an exciting church, made up mostly of college students, so we had a lot in common. And it was through this church that I took the next step in realizing my dream of a drama ministry. After Dana and I had performed a few skits one night, more opportunities began to open up for me to perform. As Christmas approached, I was asked to direct a short play I had written called The Penetrating Question. That experience showed me that with a lot of work and patience, I could direct a play. I must admit, however, that my methods were a little unorthodox.
Hey, stage manager, get out here! I thought I told you to change the performance night to next Monday. Why is there an audience out here?
I'm sorry I didn't tell you. I guess I didn't get around telling everyone.
Just how many people did you tell?
2. But my grandparents lived too far away from here to see the performance anyway.
You mean these people are here to see a show?
Uh-huh.
But we're not ready!
Remember that definition of acting you've always taught us?
You mean the ability to make an audience believe that what could not possibly be happening is happening.
That's the one. So act like it.
Welcome audience to our performance of A Springfield Christmas. Is everyone ready backstage? No. Great. Let's see tonight. Our first number.
Excuse me, that is correct. My name is R.J. Stoops. There's station KORN here in, hey, where are we?
Springfield, Missouri.
Yeah, right, Springfield, whatever. Anyway, we're here we're doing a little holiday show here, and I'd like to do some interviews. Now, listen up, because I talk fast. Our TV audience would like to know how you and your cast would answer the penetrating question. What does Christmas mean to you?
Freeze! No one move. I have to check facial expressions. I can hear the interpretation of the lines and change it if I need to, but this is the only way I know if I'm getting the expressions I want.
I'm sorry. I just didn't expect you to grab my face.
I probably should have warned you, but you'll get used to it eventually.
Well, when the floods come, at least we can wear stage makeup if our faces get all bruised from this.
Of course, if you get it right every time, I won't have to keep checking.
Touché, mon directeur.
All right, let's run that again, and this time everyone freeze right when I tell you to.
Hey, stage manager, get out here! I thought I told you to change the performance night to next Monday. Why is there an audience out here?
My methods were a little unorthodox, but they worked. It was thrilling on the night of the performance to sit in the audience as a play that I had written and directed was being performed. On the night of the performance, after the play was over, I sat on the edge of the stage and listened to the quiet all around me. bowed my head and thanked God for fulfilling my dreams. Before I left that night, I also dedicated that building to be used for Christian drama. The spot where I stood that night is the exact spot I'm standing right now. And that building is the same building you are sitting in tonight. 8 years after I prayed a prayer of dedication, asking God to use this building for Christian drama, Stained Glass Theater, Missouri's first full-time Christian theater, moved in debt-free, calling it their promised land. Through God's promises and providence, He has allowed me to come full circle and to be part of a ministry that I prayed for more than 20 years ago. A ministry that hadn't even breathed its first breath when I uttered that prayer. The following January, I felt that the time had come for me to go to Evangel. I planned to go back later and finish my degree at CBC, but I also wanted a drama degree, and it looked like Evangel had what I wanted. I hadn't even been on Evangel's campus since that night, 1 year earlier, when God had told me that one day this would be my school. Now that time had come. I immersed myself in my studies and was involved in the drama department. It was while I was in the office of Dr. Dalen, the drama teacher, one afternoon that I took the next step in realizing my dream and making true a brash statement I had made months earlier. Dr. Dalen and I were discussing a certain project I would do when her phone rang. The French department was doing a play called Tartuffe and needed someone to play the lead. The French teacher was asking Dr. Dalen if she could recommend someone. Dr. Dalen's answer to that question is what sent me to visit the Evangel College French department.
Oh, you must be Joe Ransom. I am the French teacher. Mrs. Jones, have a seat. Are you familiar with Molière?
No, ma'am. I don't speak French.
Well, the play we will be doing is by Molière. Did Dr. Dalen tell you this?
No, she just told me I was supposed to play a man named Tartuffe.
Are you okay with this? You look a little nervous.
Well, like I said, I don't speak French.
Oh, well, there is no problem there. We will be doing an English translation of the play, and you won't have to speak French.
That makes me feel a lot better. Ma'am?
Yes?
What did Dr. Dalen tell you about me?
Well, she said you had quite a bit of theater in your background. That's about all she said. Why?
Well, I don't want to ruin your plans or anything, but you see, I'm blind.
Oh. Well, that will certainly make things more interesting, now won't it?
Yes, it will.
I am sorry. I did not mean to act so shocked. It's just that I could not tell. You do not carry a cane or anything.
Well, I pretty much know my way around inside, so I don't use one.
I see. Well, we're just about ready to read through the play, so feel free to come along with me, and if you want to, and you can take it from there.
Okay.
Okay?
And that was how I came to be sitting in a French classroom listening to French students read a French play to the French teacher. It wasn't exactly the situation I had always envisioned, but it was a great opportunity. It was thrilling on the night of the performance. After that night, I sat and remembered the afternoon in my professor's office at CBC when I had told him I would have the lead in a play. I remembered all the people who had told me I would never act. And I remembered the night on the California ministry trip when God told me that one day I would use drama to minister. God was proving himself faithful. Truly, with him, all things are possible. My dream had begun, and nothing would ever stop it. Like all of the important and life-changing days of our lives, February 29th, 1980 began like any other day. Spring break was right around the corner, and I had 10 glorious days to enjoy my newly remodeled home. That night, I checked the fire in the furnace, turned off the TV, and went to bed. Suddenly, in about an hour, I was wide awake. I knew I had no reason to waken early, so I thought God must have had a reason to waken me. As soon as I stepped into the living room, I knew why God had awakened me. It's amazing what a Christian thinks about at a time like that. 2 verses of Scripture came to my mind while I was in the trailer. The first was from Isaiah. When thou walkest through the fire, thou shalt not be burned, neither shall the flame kindle upon thee. The other was from Job. The Lord hath given, and the Lord hath taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. The first thing I did when I got out of the trailer was to get down on my knees and thank God for saving me, and thank Him for the lessons I would learn from the fire. As I knelt there in the snow, I knew that if I could see, I would be watching everything I owned go up in smoke. I did not know why it happened, but God knew, and that was all that mattered. Shortly after the fire, He began to show me the things I was to learn. Over the next few days, one of the things I learned was to rely on people and trust their unconditional love for me. One of the young men who had stayed with me for a while was now my next-door neighbor. That night, after the fire, I stayed with him. The pillow, bedding, and towels I used were the ones I had given him when he moved out of my place. Later, Dana would give me back the dishes I had given him when he moved into his own apartment. As it turned out, the only things I had saved were the things I had given away. I would soon find another place to live, but before I did, I needed to go back to the trailer one more time. As I walked through the rubble of my dream, God spoke to my heart. He told me that He could replace everything I had lost. Show me I didn't need it in the first place. And as He spoke to my heart, He also showed me a sense of humor. Inside a cloth-covered trunk that I had used as a bench, I had put $30 worth of fire logs for my fireplace. After the fire, everything was gone, even the trunk. There on the floor was a nice, neat pile of $30 worth of fire logs. The things that were to light with a match hadn't even been touched by the fire. As many lessons are learned through pain and sorrow, this one also had a price. As I continued walking through the snow-covered remains, I pushed my hands out to the sides of the trailer in order to find something familiar. I tripped and fell to my knees. The wind was whistling as I found it lying in the snow. It had been a picture of my mother taken many years ago. All that was left was a broken and charred frame. I felt the warm tears trickle down my face as my mind went back to other days. I remembered my mother's funeral when I was in the first grade. I remembered mountain lakes and horseback rides. I remembered my grandpa's funeral. I remembered the night I became a Christian. And I remembered Jamie. As I slowly stood to leave, I knew that I was saying goodbye to a part of me that would never be seen again. As I turned to walk away, say goodbye to my memories, I knew that in 20 minutes, a boy had become a man. I soon found another place to live and set about the task of reconstructing my life. People from all over Springfield were cleaning out their attics and basements and bringing me their garage sale items. Thanks to the kindness and love of many people, my new home was taking shape. I finished out the semester at Evangel and had one semester left at CBC. As if I didn't have enough challenges in my life already, I was going to juggle 2 schools and try to complete my work at both of them at the same time. One of my new friends at CBC was a young man named Rick. He reminded me a lot of myself when I first became a Christian. He was full of zeal and excitement, and he always seemed more concerned about me than I was about myself. Everything he did because the love of Jesus flowed through him. I really envied Rick because he never had any problems in his life. Or so I thought.
Follow Jesus, I will follow Jesus. Oh, anywhere He leads me, I will follow. My music offends thee? Hey, what's up, Joe? What's bugging you?
What are you talking about?
You just haven't seen yourself today.
Forget it, Rick. You wouldn't understand.
Oh, yeah? Try me.
Well, It's like you never have any problems and everything seems to go your way. And I know it just sounds like I'm complaining, but I don't know why it can't be that way for me. I mean, I'm thankful I have a roof over my head and food in my stomach, but
Well, what's the problem?
I'm tired of living the way I do, Rick. I don't know from one day to the next where my meals are going to come from. I'm tired of not having a family to spend time with, and I'm walking 10 miles a day to school and back, and I'm tired of it. I'm tired of being blind. I want to be able to watch the leaves change colors in the fall. I want to be able to ride a bicycle. I want to be able to read my books like everybody else does. I want to be like everybody else. I won't be like you, Rick.
Joe, you need to know things aren't as easy for me as you might think.
What do you mean?
Well, when my parents divorced, it hurt. It hurt me a lot because I love them both very much. And I don't know, I just don't understand how something like that could happen. Now my mom's sick and she rarely gets out of the house. My brother and I try to help her out the best we can, but he's barely making it through high school.
I'm sorry, Rick. I didn't know.
I don't talk about it, but I worry about it. I wish I could be with my mom all the time, but I can't because, well, I know God wants me here at CBC right now. And to tell you the truth, there are times when I wish I could be like you big lug.
What?
Well, for you, school is easy. Man, you don't have to work at it the way I do. I have to really work hard to get the grades you get without even trying.
Rick, if you have problems like that, why don't it ever get you down?
Joe, I learned something a long time ago. I just take things one day at a time. And you know, that's all Jesus asked of me. And things do get me down sometimes. But when they do, I just pray about it and let God handle the problems. Man, He takes care of everything.
I know that's how it's supposed to work.
Joe, you've been trying to solve all your problems by yourself, so everyone will think you can handle any situation. We know better. Everyone knows you're blind, Joe. Everyone but you. You don't have to pretend that you're not. Look, I don't know why things worked out this way for you, but God does. And you know He's got the answer to your problems. He'll work it out if you just let Him.
I guess God has been speaking to me more and more lately about that. He tells me sometimes as bluntly as you did, and sometimes not. I guess it's just so hard for me to fall back into that old poor, pitiful me way of thinking. I know I've got it better than most people. My problem hasn't always been my eyesight. It's been my attitude. And as hard as it is for me to admit, I guess I do need help from people.
Oh, whoa! What did you say?
I said I need people.
Now there. That wasn't so hard to admit now, was it?
I guess not.
That admission, my friend, is the first step on the road to recovery. You know, Joe, you're not like other people.
What are you talking about?
Well, I see you bump into walls occasionally, and sometimes I catch you still talking to people after they've already left the room. But other than that, you don't act like you can't see.
Oh, thanks a lot. Get me to admit that I need people, then tell me I've been doing just fine being independent and stubborn.
No, that's not it. It's like you're not really blind. You just can't see.
That sounds like a catchy title for a book.
I'll tell you what, you write it and I'll read it. Let's get going.
With the refreshed perspective I faced in the last few months of my college career, I finished my degree requirements at CBC and had one semester left at Evangel. In addition to my classwork, I was involved in the spring drama production. That is where I met the new drama teacher, Mr. David Smith. I knew from the first time we met I was facing a challenge. I could tell I was going to have to impress him with my great theatrical talent. He was a hard man to impress. Mr. Smith had one great fault. He was unbearably honest. Mr. Smith had one great virtue. He was unbearably honest. Whether I impressed him or not, I learned a lot working with him on that production. After the production was over and the end of the school year approached, I began to think more seriously again about my future. I still didn't know where God wanted me after graduation. I began to spend a lot of time with my friends, praying over God's will for our lives. Although I was unsure about the future, God was showing me that He was still meeting my needs on a day-to-day basis. He knew the future. I only need concern myself with today. As graduation drew closer and closer, I also began to think more about my family. I hadn't seen them in a long time, and I missed them. I wanted them to see me graduate, but I knew they couldn't make the trip from Montana. I began to phone them every week just to tell them how I was doing. It wasn't the same as being with them, but it was the next best thing. I wanted so much for them to be proud of me. Finally, the long-awaited day arrived. As gracefully as I could, I walked down the aisle and found my place in the Evangel Auditorium. I sat quietly and let my thoughts tune out the speaker as my mind went back to other days. I remembered the day when I was 16 years old, and my brother Randy said, "Joe, you'll never make it on your own. You don't have enough common sense to make it." Not only did I make it, I was about to graduate from 2 colleges, and on the same day. No one else knew the victory that was mine alone that day. Needless to say, I was very excited. But I also had sad feelings that morning. While the other students whispered about graduation gifts and plans to see their families, I sat alone. I would have no graduation gifts. I did not have a family in the audience to cheer for me as I graduated, and I still didn't know what I would do after I did graduate. Suddenly, my thoughts were interrupted as we stood to walk the aisle and receive our diplomas. I could feel the blood rushing through my body as I walked toward the platform. Then, as my name was being called, and I reached for my diploma and reached to shake President Spence's hand, I barely heard him say, "We're proud of you," over the roar of the crowd. As my name was being called, the entire auditorium filled with cheers and hand clapping, and I knew then that I was not alone. I was receiving the greatest graduation gift anyone could ever have. I also knew I had been wrong. I had lived for this day for years. It had been my only goal, and I had reached it. But I was wrong in seeing this day as the climax. It was only the beginning. I did not attain the grand prize that day. I merely left the starting gate. There would be new goals and new fights, new failures and new victories. But no matter what the future brought, no matter where God would lead, Joe Ransom would never be alone again.
Know that before each performance and all during the run, we pray for every audience that comes through. And we just want to let you know that we are open to pray with you for anything that's in your life right now that you want to pray about or bring to the Lord. We would relish the fact that we could pray with you and do that for you. And if you would please bow your heads now, I'd like to close this and dismiss it. Lord, we thank you, God, for your presence here. We thank you, God, once again for the opportunity to gather in your name, Lord. We just pray, God, that the messages brought forth here will go forth and impact hearts and lives for your kingdom, Jesus, Lord. And you would protect us all. Let your Spirit rest upon us. It's in your precious, wonderful name we pray. Amen.
I will.